Hey, welcome to Chapter 2 of Graham the Gargoyle, Graham's Grief. This one's called Mudslinging Mayhem. Graham did his best to protect Ott from the worst of the mud. He had his back to the barrage, and his shoulders and puny wings were bearing the brunt of the attack. If only his frail wings were larger, like Blord's wings, he could shield them completely from the mud bath. Instead, his tiny wings fluttered like helpless leaves caught in the wind. The mud slid off his back as the slow tug of gravity worked its bitter magic. He would have enjoyed a rowdy mud fight with his friend, but this was clearly not the case. There was cruel intent behind each throw. Several shots had stung, especially those thrown by Skinnerd, who whooped and hollered every time he hit his target. Despite Graham's urgings, Ott refused to cower. While Graham was a decent shield, a few got through. The troll stood and endured several mud pies across his broad jaw, and one or two splattered against his thick forearms. You need to step clear. I'm who they want to hit. Ott looked at Graham with a mix of sadness and determination. A clump of mud smacked into the central ridge of small horns running along the top of Graham's head. Some slid down onto his cheeks. He didn't give the bullies the satisfaction of wiping himself clean in front of them. Get over here, duck down closer, and let me get hit, Graham said. Ott frowned. No, let me face them. Graham smiled. It's better we stand up to them together. Huddle close, and maybe they'll stop if they see we're not reacting. You sure we shouldn't just run off? Ott said, taking a step toward him. Reginald was now throwing his mud with a more severe arc. Many of his tosses were getting closer to Ott, a clever way to get around Graham. Although he was surprised neither gargoyle had spread out and attacked them from the sides. They seemed to prefer hanging close to each other, probably so they could gloat without shouting back and forth across the field. Come on, get over. At least we can make ourselves a smaller target together. That worked. The troll scampered over and slid to his knees at Graham's feet. Ott smiled up at him, and Graham leaned over to shield his friend even more. Ott said, You know, I don't mind getting dirty. I know, but this is different. 4 mud pies pelted Graham's legs in rapid succession, splattering mud across Ott's chest. You're such a pal. You don't have to do this. Graham shook his head. It's not right. As much as he says this is about you coming to our school, it isn't. Blord has it in for me. You're just a bonus. You're just a bonus. Behind them, Skinner tried to get their attention. Come on, you losers. Show us you're not going to just sit there and hug each other. Fight back. Ott said, That's what they want. I know. We just have to wait them out. Let them keep at it. Ott gripped Graham's ankle and squeezed it reassuringly. Eventually, they'll get bored and go away. Another mud pie smacked Graham in the neck. I'm not so sure. They can be pretty persistent. Bullies are like that. A mud pie hit his tiny upright tail. Maybe I should fight back. The squeater hive is already disturbed. Don't stir it up further. Ott's tiny eyes beamed with sincerity, another bit of wisdom from the troll's father. As much as Graham loved his friend, he found the troll's peace-loving temperament annoying. When have your dad's words ever gotten you out of a real-life problem? Ott said. All the time. He knows his stuff. Graham shifted his weight. Hunching over his friend was becoming uncomfortable. My legs will cramp up if I stay like this much longer. Then get out of the way, Ott said. Graham frowned as he stretched out his left leg. His friend was right. Ignoring Blord and his cronies was their best option. It wasn't like his hero, the flying mummy, was about to happen on the scene and save the day. Graham settled in for a long wait. If he kept flexing his legs once in a while, he could prevent his muscles from tightening. He closed his eyes and let his mind wander, a feat he excelled at in school and at home. Graham imagined himself flying Ott to safety. He pictured them soaring above the clouds. He smiled as they glided close to a large cloud, and Ott reached down, attempting to gather up the cloud stuff as if it were cotton candy. If only his wings were bigger, stronger. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. You will fly the highest of them all on your first flight, little one. His grandfather always said it with such faith and conviction. Graham's pleasant daydreaming was interrupted by a horrible racket. Blord now joined in the battle, except he was slinging insults rather than mud. I should have known you'd just huddle together and do nothing. You're a coward, Graham. Your little sister has more guts than you do." Graham squeezed his eyes shut even tighter. "Heck, even her wings are bigger than yours. And she's just a level 3, Blord chuckled. "He can only hurt you if you let him," Ott whispered. A large mud pie impacted against Graham's lower back. "That one will surely leave a bruise." "Yeah, well, it's hard not to feel bad," Graham said to Ott. "Come on, show some spine. Scoop up some mud and return fire. Where's your courage? Face us." Blord snorted in disgust. 2 wads of mud smacked Graham's back. "He's getting desperate. He's grasping at straws," Ott said. Graham really didn't need to hear any more of the fatherly wisdom Ott was offering, even if it was more colorful than how his own dad phrased his counsel. "Enough," he growled. "Just ease up on the advice." The troll shrugged. "Just trying to be a friend." Graham regretted his outburst immediately. "Sorry, Ott. I'm just frustrated. Why does Blord always have it in for me?" Of course, he already knew the answer to that, and so did Blord. "Your daddy is all high and mighty on the council. Ashamed to see his son isn't up to the challenge. What would he think seeing you doing nothing?" Graham snickered to himself. If Blord was trying to rile him up by tossing out how disappointed his father would be in him, he was way off base. Graham had been living with that hardship almost since he could crawl. Ott was thinking the same. Boy, is he fishing. Not like he's going to hurt you with any of that, huh? The troll knew more than anyone, but Flynn, how hard the gargoyle's dad was on him. Oddly, Graham's friendship with Ott was one of the few instances where the quick-to-judge adult almost approved of his conduct. A large mud pie hit his ear. He ignored it like the others. Blord's next insult hit its mark. "Maybe you're just turning to stone like your grandfather. I hear it happens to people who sit around and do nothing." Graham spun around, his blood boiling. Reginald and Skinner both froze with mud pies held high as he sank his hands into the mud to scoop up a clump of his own. He felt a stone sliding around between his fingers, but it barely registered in his fury. "Don't ever talk about my grandfather." Blord sneered and was about to tease him further when, with all his strength, Graham fired the mud pie at him. The mud pie smacked the bully in his flat nose with a wet thud. Blord hunched over, clawing at his nose. "Banobth, banobth, moom whittle mweep, moomit banobth, with a mock." Blord sprang at Graham, his huge wings outstretched but offering him very little lift. "Marg!" Graham backpedaled, tripping over Ott and slipping back in the mud. He tried to dodge the bully. Instead, his right leg shot up, dangled in the air, and tripped the angry gargoyle. Blord went airborne for a brief moment, flapping his impressive wings in an effort to avoid landing in a long, muddy stretch of the garden. Despite their impressive size, his wings didn't help. The bully dropped to the ground, sliding a good 6 feet through the mud. All was quiet and still for a time. Graham and Ott gawked in disbelief. Blord's friends rushed to his side. Neither tried to help the bully up. Blord rested in the mud, covered from head to tail in the extra moist earth. "This can't be good," Ott whispered. Blord slowly stood, ignoring the mud dripping from him. The bully marched up to Graham. He loomed over him, his eyes manic. A trickle of blood flowed from Blord's injured nose, mixing with the mud decorating his face. The bully took in 2 deep breaths. "I challenge you." His voice was filled with hate. Graham felt like a mouse with its tail stuck in a trap. "You and me are going to race," Blord grunted. "A race over Mount Prometheus. Dawn tomorrow. Meet us at Parsons Plateau. Be there, or else." He flicked Graham's wings with his fat finger. Blord turned and walked out of the field and into the woods. Reginald and Skinner trailed behind him. Graham and Ott watched in silence until the threesome disappeared. Ott spoke first. "That's one angry Skeeter." So next week, we'll be reading chapters 3 and 4. And chapter 3 is one of my favorites. It's called Family Volcano. And you're going to get to see Graham's relationship with his sister, his little sister Flynn. I want you to pay close attention to the details about the volcano, because this is a chapter that definitely uses foreshadowing. And I think it's going to help you as a detective, a story detective, to figure out what details you might need from this volcano presentation that will help Graham later. because you're about to be informed on something very important that will help Graham pick out something that Blord does that's wrong. Take care.